It is time for us to let go of Xenoblade Chronicles X. Kill it, if we have to. That is the only way that we are going to become what we were truly meant to be. Howdy folks, how are y'all doing? My name is Reese, and last year I relaunched my Let's Play channel with a series going through Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U. I had never played the game before, and I actually made a video on this channel about a year ago talking about how much I loved it. I hadn't even finished it yet. I don't even think I'd unlocked flying yet in my Skell at that point. I love this game though, and from the moment I played it, when I finished it, I wanted more, right? And to be clear, I didn't actually finish it. I finished the story, but there was still a ton more to do in the world, but 3 was coming out, and I needed to play Xenoblade Chronicles 3, because I had to know what was going on there. But I knew I would come back to this, and I'm planning on going back to this. I've still got my save file. It's going to take a little warming up to after 3 and after Future Redeemed. Speaking of, by the way, spoilers for Xenoblade Chronicles X, 3, Future Redeemed. Heck, throw 1 and 2 in there. Maybe even Xenosaga, I should say. Just spoilers for everything from this point forward. I apologize. Anyway, from the moment I finished this game, I wanted more. I wanted Xenoblade Chronicles X 2. I wanted this to tie in with 3 in some way. And I know that it's kind of unreasonable to want that considering what happens at the start of this game. And I said spoilers before, so let's just get into it. This game opens, the opening cutscene, where everything about the world is being explained to you, literally contains Earth. You see it blow up. It gets destroyed, allegedly. That's not really compatible with Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3. The trilogy, Earth never gets destroyed. You definitely see in 2, the Saviorite rebels attacking the Beanstalk. You see Klaus's experiment activate. You see that Ontos, aka Alvis, aka, if you're still denying that that's him, have you played Future Redeemed? It is. Causes this space-time rupture event, and it creates this pocket dimension, but then actual Earth is still a thing, and that's all rest. At no point does Earth blow up. And to be clear, the events depicted at the beginning of this game do not contain the Saviorite rebels. It contains 2 separate alien warring factions, one of which is flying antimatter ships, which when they crash on the surface of the planet, they blow up because matter, antimatter, big explosion. Doesn't really make any sense because that should have happened the second they hit the atmosphere, because all of the gases up there at the top are matter. They shouldn't have needed to crash on the ground, but you know what? They had a force field around them protecting them until they made contact with the ground. There, I had cannoned my way through it. But apparently the planet gets blown up. So you'd think that any reasonable person would say, okay, well, these can't connect. But Xenoblade Chronicles games retcon themselves. It happens. Literally, the events you see at the end of 1 of Klaus's experiments and the events you see at the end of 2 are just not the same. They remastered 1, and they replaced Alvis's key, because he was the key to all of it. They replaced that with the Ontos core crystal, making it abundantly clear to everyone that he was Ontos, even though people continued to reject it. So what can you do? But they didn't bother to correct the fact that the first low Earth orbit station, they didn't correct the fact that it had a big beanstalk connecting it to the ground. It's still just kind of hovering in the air in the original, and events play out slightly differently. They could have fixed it. They chose not to. I don't know why. But the point is, in 2, we see kind of more what actually happens. And what do we do as fans? We don't say, well, geez, that's wrong and a retcon. We just headcanon our way around it. We say, oh, well, that's the way that Alvis remembers events playing out. Or he didn't think that Shulk would understand a beanstalk, even though how is Shulk going to understand a space station? Or we make up excuses and we roll with it. And the same could have been said for this game. You know? We could have just, I mean, at the end of this game, one of the characters literally says, I hope we find Earth again someday, even though it literally blew up.
And we'll live on, for now, with faith in our hearts that one day we can once again set out to search for the planet we left behind.
There's a lot in this game that doesn't make sense. The White Whale was traveling for 2 years in space before it crashed into Mira, but the Ganglion are there because when Earth blew up, they were sucked into a ball of light and deposited on the planet, and they can't get out. But then the White Whale just kind of flew there, and sure, they crash landed. There's enough weird stuff in this game where you could kind of hand wave away an excuse, where you say, okay, the planet didn't really get destroyed. And yeah, the Saviorite rebels were attacking the space station, but then there was also aliens, and that's really why Klaus activated his experiment. You could make an excuse. Until now. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. I finished Future Redeemed. Massive spoilers for Future Redeemed. I can no longer pretend that these are connected. I got excited watching the big cutscene in Future Redeemed. Hearing the radio reports. They're talking about the Unified Earth government, right? The coalition government. Same. And they're talking about Project Exodus. The same. But in the context of the cutscene, it's not the same. Project Exodus was, I believe, a secret government operation where they were desperately trying to get off of the planet before they knew this destruction of aliens was coming. And in Future Redeemed, it's very clearly like isn't this cool that we're doing this? We're sending people into space. Isn't this fun? So lighthearted. It's not at all like the desperate attempt we see here. And then also in this, everyone leaves at once. And then also in this, there's no actual humans on board these ships. It's all mimeosomes and nonsense. It's very clearly unrelated. Couple of winks and nods by the localization team, but clearly just winks and nods. And they're going in a different direction now. I've not played Xenosaga, but apparently they're going in a Xenosaga direction, which means I've got to go buy all these PS2 games. They're like $35 and then more expensive and then hundreds of dollars for the third one, unless I want to get the Japanese ones. Then what am I going to play those on? And then how am I going to understand them? Do they have the English dubs? Do they have the English? What am I supposed to? It's a whole ordeal that I'm now facing. Will I emulate them? Will they remaster them? I actually have an inkling they might. Because I have a feeling, and I don't know this, but my suspicion is that the reason that the DLCs have been launching early, it's not because the game came out a couple of months early. Because even when the game launched, they were like, hey, here's the timeline for these DLCs. And the DLCs still came out early. I think that we might be seeing an announcement. Now that Future Redeemed is out and everyone's seen the ending and they have context for why this is happening, we might actually see a remaster of Xenosaga. Maybe as a Switch exclusive. Maybe, I can explain that more in another video, but I really held on to hope. You know, if you watch any of my Let's Play for 3, walking around, seeing environments that were very obviously inspired by places in Xenoblade Chronicles X, but were not actually those places. I kept desperately longing for some sort of hint that these are going to be the same thing. These are going to be connected. They're just not. And even though I stand by the fact that you could, up until the release of Future Redeemed, you could make a headcanon excuse retcon to fit this in. Seeing what they've done now with Earth's history, and seeing what they are apparently doing with the future, I think it's time we let go of that dream. We do not have to let go of this game, though. If you've not played this game, I know it's a bit fiddly, because you gotta get a Wii U now, and you can't get the patch, the performance patch that I would argue is basically essential for this now. You might have to resort to means to play this game that Nintendo wouldn't like. Mostly their fault, though, because they're not putting it on Switch. It's worth playing, though. It's a really good game. It has the DNA of Xenoblade, but it goes in a very different direction with it, and it's just fantastic. I love this game. I'm looking forward to playing more of it. I might play through the whole game again, just because it's that good. And I still have hope that they'll give us a Xenoblade Chronicles X 2. In fact, if what people are saying pans out, and Xenoblade Chronicles 4 ends up also being Xenosaga 4 at the same time, maybe they give it a new name. They could just do a new Xeno series, and then leave Xenoblade Chronicles as its own specific X thing, right? Like, we'll continue the X series in that name. And have Xeno Ventures in Space, or whatever, for this amalgamation universe they're doing now. I don't know. I just think it's probably best if all of us Xenoblade Chronicles X fans, hard as this is going to be to do, just go ahead and let go of the notion that they're going to be connected. You can do some cross-dimensional stuff, sure. You can bring Xenogears into it if you want to, and say these all exist in the same multiverse. And maybe there's pocket dimensions that open, people can pass through, and the Nopon can clearly go between dimensions, because Tatsu in this game knows all about Frontier Village, and there's a Telethia flying around. Are those winks and nods, or is there some kind of cross-dimensional shenanigans happening? I think the Nopon are weird, and I think they can just do things like that. You know, like the Nopon Archsage, he can just go anywhere and be anywhere at any time in space. So I think, yeah, they can probably cross dimensions and stuff. There you go. There you go. It's in the same multiverse. We have that. We can hold on to that. Thanks to Tatsu and the Nopon being just weirdos, we can hold on to that. But as far as the future of the trilogy connecting with this in any other way, it's time to let it go. It was fun to imagine and play make-believe and sort of visualize in our minds how we would make it connect. And we can still do that. But the main series is going in a different direction. And I love the main series, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to play Xenosaga. I'm excited to see what it's all about and figure out what this cosmos is and all the other nonsense and gubbins, so that'll be a good time. Thank you folks for watching. Don't give up hope. X2 might still be in our future. Until next time, though, thank you folks for watching. God bless you, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.